Why do so many people in today's world only realize your value once you're gone? We live in a culture that confuses patience with permanence and kindness with weakness. Why is it that loyalty is often rewarded with neglect and forgiveness mistaken for endless availability? We are told relationships can survive anything, yet so often it is silence, not words, that becomes the final verdict. And why? In a society overflowing with noise, do people underestimate the quiet power of absence, the power that reshapes memories, rewrites stories, and leaves those who lost you haunted forever? The most brutal truth you'll ever face is this: once you walk away, they will never see you again. Not the real you. Not the version who loved without limits, forgave without reason, and endured beyond breaking. That person is gone forever. People think you'll always come back. They believe history, guilt, or nostalgia will pull you through the same door again. But here's the reality. When trust is shattered, when your energy is drained, when your soul is done, your silence becomes permanent. And that permanence is the wound they will never recover from. In this video, we are going to break down the psychological impact of walking away for good. Why absence is the most devastating form of power, and how to reclaim your peace, dignity, and self-worth. If you stay until the end, you'll learn the exact mindset that turns your silence into strength, and why those who lost you will spend the rest of their lives haunted by memories they can never touch again. This is not about anger. This is not about revenge. This is about liberation. And once you understand it, nothing and no one will ever have the power to hurt you the same way again. There comes a moment in life when goodbye is no longer just a pause. It becomes final. Not a break, not a temporary silence, but a closing of the door that will never be opened again. And this is where most people fail to understand you. They assume you'll always come back because you've forgiven before. They assume the door is only half closed. That time nostalgia or guilt will make you return. They confuse your patience with permanence. They confuse your kindness with weakness. But what they don't realize is that there is a line, an invisible point of no return that once crossed. There is no going back. Goodbye is not a performance. It's a decision. Walking away isn't about teaching someone a lesson. It isn't about playing the silent treatment so they'll finally pay attention. No, the irreversible goodbye is not theater. It is not manipulation. It is self-preservation. It happens when you've poured out every ounce of loyalty, every ounce of understanding, every ounce of energy, and received nothing but neglect, betrayal, or indifference in return. At that point, staying becomes an act of self-destruction, and leaving is the only act of self-respect left. They think you'll return. You won't. At first, they'll dismiss your absence. They'll call it dramatic, temporary, childish. They'll wait for your message, your call, your soft heart to pull you back into their story. But slowly, painfully, they will realize that this is not a break. It's a burial. Because the version of you they knew, the one who stayed through the storms, who forgave without reason, who believed in potential instead of reality, that version no longer exists. Once you walk away, that you is dead, and no amount of apologies or nostalgia can resurrect them. Goodbye is not revenge. Let's make this clear. The irreversible goodbye is not about punishing them. It's not about making them suffer. It's about reclaiming yourself, about finally saying either serve better, and I won't wait for you to realize it when it's already too late. This goodbye carries weight because it is quiet. There is no shouting, nod, dramatic exit, no grand speech. It is silent, and that silence cuts deeper than any confrontation ever could. Because silence is not emptiness, it is judgment. It is the verdict that says, I will not allow you in my life anymore. They will never see you again. Not the real you, not the you who gave them countless chances. Not the you who believed in their excuses. That person is gone. What remains is a stronger, colder Visa self. A self that refuses to be diminished by someone else's carelessness. And this is the part that devastates them once you are gone. There is no new season, no sequel, no redemption arc. They had their chance. They wasted it. And now all that remains are the shadows of who you used to be. Untouchable, unreachable. Memory becomes punishment. Every laugh you shared, every moment of kindness, every silent act of love will return to them like a ghost. They will hear echoes of your presence in the quiet of their nights. They will replay the times they should have appreciated you, should have apologized, should have fought for you. And those realizations will hit them like a storm. They'll scroll through old photos, read old messages, and for a split second, they believe they can reach you, but they can't, because the irreversible goodbye doesn't come with a key. It doesn't come with conditions. Once the bridge is burned, it cannot be rebuilt. Why this goodbye matters. The irreversible goodbye is the ultimate act of liberation. It is choosing to honor your worth over someone else's negligence. It is saying, I will no longer play a supporting role in a story where I was never valued. It is the moment where self-respect becomes louder than attachment, where dignity outweighs nostalgia, where peace becomes more important than promises that were never kept. And when you cross that threshold, you discover something life-changing. The pain of walking away is far smaller than the pain of staying in a place where you were never cherished. They won't understand until it's too late. They'll mistake your silence for space. They'll assume you're giving them time. They'll believe the door is cracked open, just enough for them to return. But time will teach them the truth. You didn't walk away to test them. You walked away because the foundation was destroyed, because trust doesn't grow back once it's been shattered beyond repair. By the time they realize this, it will be too late. You'll already be walking into a new chapter. You'll already be building new connections, new joy, new peace, and they will be stuck staring at the place you used to stand, haunted by the fact that they'll never see you again. The irreversible goodbye is not weakness, not bitterness, and not punishment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It is the moment you stop asking others to value you and start proving it by walking away. Absence is not emptiness. It is not weakness. Absence is power. Silent, sharp, and unforgettable. People often underestimate what your absence does until it's too late. They mistake your presence for something infinite, renewable, always available. But the truth is, this presence is a gift, not a guarantee. And once it is gone, the void it leaves behind is louder than any argument, sharper than any revenge. Silence versus noise. Most believe power is expressed in words in confrontation and explosiva anger. They think respect is gained by shouting, by fighting, by making your point. But the strongest weapon you have is not in what you say, it's in what you withhold. When you disappear, when you stop answering, when you stop being available, your absence becomes a mirror that forces them to see themselves without your comfort, without your energy, without your presence. And what they see in that mirror terrifies them. Emptiness where they once had everything. Absence is authority. Think about it. When you were there, they grew accustomed to your kindness, your forgiveness, your patience. They consumed it like it had no limit. But the moment you vanish, the balance shifts. Suddenly they realize that access to you was never permanent, that your presence was not their entitlement. It was their privilege. And when privilege is lost, begins regret that parades slowly like poison, dripping into the ego day after day, the haunting of absence. At first they may dismiss it. They'll come back, they always do. But days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and the silence doesn't break. That's when absence begins its real work. Your laughter is no longer in their home. Your advice is no longer in their crisis. Your presence is no longer filling the empty spaces of their loneliness. They feel the cold reality that you are no longer there to soften the blows of their life. Absence haunts. It lingers in rooms, in songs, in small memories that suddenly feel unbearable. The sound of your silence grows louder than your voice ever did. And it is in that silence that they realize the depth of their loss. Absence readies value. Here is the paradox. People rarely see your worth when you are right in front of them. Familiarity blinds them. They assume your presence is endless because it has always been there. But absence restores clarity. When you are gone, they finally see what you truly were. Irreplaceable, not perfect. Bit unique, not flawless, but genuine. And this realization cuts deeper than any rejection because it cannot be undone. Once you are gone, there is no way to recreate the you that once existed in their life. Absence is self-respect. Choosing to step away is not about cruelty. It is not about trying to hurt them. It is about finally respecting yourself enough to stop giving where you were only drained. It is about protecting your peace, your time, and your soul. Absence is not passive. It is active. It is the conscious choice to remove your light from someone who never appreciated it. It is the refusal to let yourself be taken for granted one. More time, they will try to fill the void when absence hits. They will try to replace you with distractions, with new people, with noise. They will search for someone who listens the way you listened, who gave the way you gave, who cared the way you cared. But every replacement will feel hollow. Every distraction will collapse because no one can replicate your energy. Not exactly. Not completely. And the more they search, the more they realize that absence is permanent, that the door is closed, that your silence is not an invitation, but a sentence. The paradox of absence, it speaks. Absence is not invisible. It speaks, louder than presence ever could. Your silence becomes a statement. I am no longer available for your neglect. I am no longer willing to play your game. My peace matters more than your presence. It's not about teaching them a lesson. It's about engraving a truth they will never forget. Once you are gone forever. The power returns to you when you walk away. When you embrace absence, you reclaim your authority. No longer do they decide when you're worthy of attention. No longer do they dictate when you should forgive. No longer do they control the rhythm of your presence. Your absence is the final proof that you belong to yourself, that you have boundaries, that you have value. And here's the truth that changes everything. The moment you stop being available is the moment you become unforgettable. Absence is not weakness. It is dominance. It is the invisible weapon that dismantles manipulation, forces recognition, and restores your power. Regret never comes in the moment when it could make a difference. It arrives too late, always too late. When you were there, they dismissed your efforts. When you listened, they spoke without gratitude. When you gave, they took without hesitation. They mistook your patience for weakness, your forgiveness for permanence, your loyalty for an endless resource. But when you're gone, that's when realization strikes. And it doesn't strike once. It strikes over and over, like waves that refuse to stop crashing against the shore. The first wave, denial. At first, they convince themselves it's temporary. They just need space. They'll come back. They always do. Denial is the ego's shield. It protects them from the truth that your absence is permanent. But denial doesn't last. Time is the silent weapon that breaks it down. Each unanswered message, each ignored attempt at contact chips away at their certainty. Slowly, Danielle crumbles. The second wave, unease. Then comes the unease. Small reminders begin to sting. They sit in a room and suddenly realize it feels emptier without your laughter. They go through a challenge and realize the comfort you once provided isn't there anymore. They reach for their phone out of habit and stop midway because they know you won't respond. That unease grows. What once felt normal now feels hollow. The spaces you used to fill now echo with silence. The third wave, regret. It is here that regret sets in. They remember the little things you did, the way you noticed when something was wrong without needing to be told, the way you supported them without judgment, the way you gave even when you were exhausted. These memories do not comfort them. They haunt them. Why? Because regret attaches pain to every memory. Every flash of your kindness now feels like a knife, a reminder of what they had and lost. They begin replaying scenarios in their head. If only I had appreciated them more. If only I had said sorry when I had the chance. If only I had shown up when they needed me. But if only cannot rebuild burned bridges. Regret is always too late. The quiet torment of realization. Realization doesn't explode. It seeps in slowly like poison dot at random moments. Midnight during a drive, standing in a crowded room, they're hit with the truth. They're not coming back, and that truth crushes them more than any argument could, because it's final. There are no more chances, no more conversations, no more apologies that could matter. Realization is cruel because it exposes the full weight of their choices. They see clearly, maybe for the first time, that it was never your absence that broke the relationship. It was their actions, their neglect, their betrayal, their arrogance. They are left staring at the mirror of consequence, and the reflection is ugly. Why regret cuts so deep? Regret is not just about missing someone. It's about knowing you could have kept them, but you didn't. It's about realizing you had the rarest gift, loyalty, patience, love, and you squandered it. This is why regret lingers. It isn't an accident, like losing something you never had control over. It's self-inflicted. They chose their actions. They chose their neglect. They chose not to change, and now they live with the result alone. The haunting of what could have been regret isn't just tied to memories of what was. It is tied to visions of what could have been. They imagine the life they could have built with you, the shared victories, the deep conversations, the small joys. But every time they imagine it, they're reminded it no longer exists. The future they could have had evaporated the moment they refuse to value the present. This is the cruelest form of realization. The understanding that the story is not just paused, it's over. There is no sequel. Regret is their prison, not yours. And here lies the most important truth. Their regret belongs to them, not to you. You do not need to witness it. You do not need to feed it. You do not need to respond to it, because regret is the consequence of their actions, not your responsibility. You will be moving on, growing, building, finding peace. They will be stuck in the cycle of memory and regret. That is their prison, not yours. The irreversible truth, regret, and realization are not storms that pass, are shadows that linger long after you moved forward. They will carry the weight of what they lost, and every memory, every moment of silence, every night of restless thought will remind them you were irreplaceable. And now you're gone. That is the irreversible truth. Regret is the most devastating punishment. It comes too late, lasts too long, and it belongs to those who failed to see your worth when you were still there. When you walk away, something profound happens. At first, it feels like loss, like you've left a part of yourself behind. But with time, you realize the opposite is true. You haven't lost yourself. You've reclaimed yourself. This is the beginning of the quiet transformation, from exhaustion to restoration in the relationship. Your energy was constantly drained. You were the giver, the forgiver, the one who endured. And because of that, you often felt depleted spiritually, emotionally, mentally. But once you walk away, the energy begins to flow back into you. The hours you once spent patching someone else's broken promises now go into your healing. The patience you once wasted on their chaos now fuels your own growth. The love you once gave away without being valued now circles back to its rightful place. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's steady restoration. Silence as fertile ground. People mistake silence for emptiness, but your silence after leaving is not empty. It's fertile. It's the soil where your transformation begins to take root. In silence, you start hearing your own voice again. You reconnect with forgotten passions. You notice the small joys that once got drowned in the noise of trying to keep someone else happy. This quiet season is not loneliness. It is preparation. It is where the next version of you is born. The shift in vision before you tolerated too much. You explained away red flags. You believed promises that were never kept. You mistook endurance for strength. But growth clears the fog. With distance, you see things for what they were. Not accidents, not misunderstandings, but choices. Repeated choices that chipped away at your trust until there was nothing left. And when that clarity settles, something inside you shifts permanently. You realize, I deserve better. I always did. This vision becomes your compass. It guides you away from people who only take and towards those who give as much as they receive. The rise of self-respect. The quiet transformation is not just about leaving someone else behind. It's about finally refusing to leave yourself behind. Self-respect becomes your anchor. You begin to set boundaries without guilt. You say no without explanation. You protect your peace like it's the most valuable currency in the world, because it is. And here's the paradox. The more you respect yourself, the less you crave respect from those who never gave it. Their validation no longer holds weight. Their approval no longer dictates your worth, outgrowing who you once were. The person they knew, the version of you who always forgave, who always stayed, who always sacrificed, no longer exists. You outgrow that version through every boundary you set, every step you take towards healing, every moment you choose peace over chaos. So when they finally realize what they've lost and try to come back, they won't find the same person. They'll find someone transformed, calmer, stronger, into someone they no longer know how to reach. And that distance is irreversible. Transformation as silent revenge. Your growth itself becomes the most devastating response. Not revenge through anger, not revenge through confrontation, but revenge through evolution. While they're stuck replaying the past, you're building a future while they're haunted by memories. You're creating new ones with people who see your worth while they're hoping for a second chance. You've already stepped into a new life that leaves no room for their return. That contrast, your rise against their regret, is the sharpest reminder of what they squandered. Why the transformation is quiet. The most powerful changes don't need to be announced. You don't need to post about it, prove it, or flaunt it. True transformation speaks for itself. They'll notice it in your absence. They'll see it when they hear you're thriving, when they realize you no longer respond to the things that once held you back, when they sense the unshakable peace radiating from you, and that silence will echo louder than any speech ever could. The irreversible distance growth creates distance and emotional, spiritual, and psychological distance that can't be crossed by nostalgia or empty apologies. Even if they beg, even if they promise change, it won't matter, because the transformation didn't just move you away from them. It moved you beyond them. They can't meet the new you because they never did the work themselves. And so they remain stuck in the past, while you walk forward into a future that has no space for what once broke you. The gift of becoming the quiet transformation is not just about leaving someone behind. It's about becoming someone new, someone who no longer bends to be accepted, someone who no longer begs to be seen, someone who no longer trades peace for proximity. You become the person you were always meant to be, the one who values their own worth so deeply that they never again settle for less. Walking away isn't the end, it's the beginning. Your silence is not emptiness. It's the fertile ground where your transformation takes root, where you evolve into someone they will never have access to again. When you walk away and embrace your transformation, a strange paradox unfolds. The more you grow, the less they can reach you. Not because you're hiding, not because you're punishing them, but because you've simply outgrown the version of yourself that once tolerated their chaos. And here lies the brutal truth. They can't follow you where you're going. The illusion of a second chance. People who mistreat or neglect often carry an unspoken assumption. You'll always be there. They think mistakes can always be patched. Apologies can always reset the clock. History can always act as a bridge back into your life. But when you've walked away for good, that illusion shatters. There is no second chance. The bridge has burned, not with fire, but with silence and absence. So permanent it cannot be rebuilt. They might send a message. They might try to stir nostalgia, bringing up old memories, old photos, or familiar words. But every attempt will fall flat. Why? Because those attempts are reaching for someone who no longer exists. The you they knew, the one who stayed despite. The pain, the one who forgave endlessly, has vanished. What remains is a stronger, clearer, more self-respecting version of you. And that version doesn't answer the door they once walked through so freely, emotional distance wider than miles. Even if they stand right in front of you, the gap will remain. Emotional distance is more powerful than physical absence. You may still be polite. You may still smile. You may even exchange a few words, but the openness they once enjoyed is gone. The warmth they took for granted has been replaced with a steady calm that offers no entry point to them. It feels like trying to reach through glass, seeing you, but never truly touching the depths of who you are anymore. This is what being beyond reach means. It's not that you disappeared physically. It's that you became emotionally untouchable. The power of raised standards. Your growth raises your standards, and raised standards are like walls. They can't climb. Before you accepted breadcrumbs, you tolerated broken promises. You endured the imbalance because you believed in potential. But after walking away, you stop living on potential. You demand reality, consistency, mutual respect. And here's the cruel irony that the very person who taught you the necessity of high standards is the one who now fails to meet them. They might beg, they might promise be, but deep inside, you know if they could not respect your worth before, they will never rise to your new standard. Now that realization alone locks the door permanently. Why? They cannot catch up. Some will think they can win you back by changing suddenly. They'll adjust their behavior, shower you with attention, act like the person you wanted all along. But here's the truth. Growth is not performance. Change is not temporary. And because their actions stem from fear of losing you, not from genuine transformation, they cannot sustain it. You've already seen behind the mask. You know what's real and what's manipulation. Their sudden kindness feels hollow because the lesson you learned is carved deep. If they wanted to do better, they would have done it before you left, and that knowledge makes their attempts futile. They are running after someone who has already stepped into another dimension of life. The haunting realization. The moment they realize you are beyond reach will not be dramatic. It will be quiet. It will hit them at night when they scroll through old messages, when they hear your laugh in memory, when they pass by the places you once went together. They'll reach for their phone to call then hesitate because deep down, they know it won't matter. That's when the haunting sets in. They'll understand that what they lost is not just a relationship. They lost access. Access to your time, your care, your presence, your forgiveness. And nothing terrifies a manipulative or neglectful person more than realizing access is gone forever, the new circle they can't enter. As you walk away, you don't just leave someone behind you. Build a new life, new friends, new love, new peace. And this new circle has boundaries they cannot cross. They will see you surrounded by people who respect you, people who value you in real time. Not after you're gone. That sight will wound them more than any words ever could, because it confirms what they always feared. You never needed them, but they always needed you. Beyond reach means beyond regret. Here's the most painful part for them. Regret has no cure. They can apologize, they can explain, they can beg, but regret cannot rebuild what is already gone. The chapter has closed. The story has ended, and no matter how many times they replay it in their head, there will never be a sequel. This is the torment of being beyond reach. They will live in memory. While you live in reality, they will cling to fragments. While you create new wholeness, the liberation of untouchability for you being beyond reach is liberation. You no longer carry the weight of proving your worth. You no longer exhaust yourself explaining what respect looks like. You no longer bend to fit into their broken patterns. You are untouchable, not because you've hardened, but because you've healed, and healing always places you at a level where the ones who hurt you can no longer follow. When you walk away and truly grow, you don't just leave someone behind, you rise beyond their reach. No matter what they do, no matter how much they regret, the distance created by self-respect, raised standards, and inner peace is a gap they will never cross. Regret is a strange visitor. It doesn't knock on the door while there's still time. To change it doesn't whisper warnings in the heat of the moment when choices are being made. Regret waits. It lingers in the shadows, biding its time until the damage is done, until the person who mattered most is already gone. Only then does regret appear sharp, uninvited, and impossible to silence. When someone loses you for good, their regret doesn't arrive all at once. It unfolds in stages, creeping into their mind like a tide that cannot be stopped. At first, it feels subtle, almost dismissible, but over time it grows heavier, sharper, more unbearable until it becomes a permanent weight pressing on their conscience. Stage 1, denial. In the beginning, they tell themselves, "It isn't real. They'll come back. They just need space. They've always forgiven me before." They confuse your silence with a pause. They convince themselves this is temporary, a cooling off period, a test of patience. They scroll through your old conversations, stare at your last message, and think it's not over. It can't be, but denial is fragile, because every day that passes without your response, every attempt at contact that falls into emptiness chips away at their illusion. Slowly, reality begins to set in. You are not returning. Stage 2, restlessness. When denial cracks, restlessness takes its place. They begin to feel uneasy, like something is missing, like their world is off balance. The absence of your presence becomes obvious. They go about their routine, but the silence is everywhere. At night, they toss and turn. The conversations you used to have echo in their mind. They remember your laughter, your voice, the calm way you made life easier. Suddenly, everything feels heavier without you. This is when they first realize what they had was rare, but still they try to distract themselves. New people, new hobbies, new escapes. Yet nothing sticks because none of it feels like you. Stage 3 is realization. One day it hits them. Not as a gentle thought, but as a punch in the chest. You are gone. Not temporarily, not until things cool down, but gone for good. They look back on all the moments they could have chosen differently. The times they ignored your needs, the apologies they withheld, the loyalty they took for granted. These memories don't arrive as neutral recollections. They arrive as sharp blades. This is when regret begins to cut deeply, because the realization dawns. The loss is permanent, and permanence is terrifying. Stage 4, obsession. Once realization takes root, obsession follows. They replay moments on loop. The last words you said, the last look on your face, the small gestures you made that they never acknowledged. Every detail becomes a movie scene they can't stop watching. Regret feeds on silence because they cannot reach you. They begin to fill the emptiness with imagined conversations. If only I had said this. If only I had done that. They fantasize about second chances, about what they would do differently if given just one more opportunity. But here lies the cruelty of regret. The second chance never comes. The film plays endlessly in their mind. But you're no longer in the theater. Stage 5, guilt and self-blame. Regret eventually matures into guilt. They begin to see clearly that your departure wasn't sudden. It was the result of their choices. Every broken promise, every neglectful act, every betrayal. The pattern they once dismissed as normal now feels like a chain of crimes against someone who only wanted to love them. The weight of guilt is suffocating because, unlike loss from fate, this was self-inflicted. They had you. They could have kept you, but they chose otherwise, and that knowledge cannot be undone. Stage 6, haunting memories. As time passes, regret doesn't fade. It transforms into haunting memories. A song comes on the radio, and suddenly, they're back in the car with you. They pass by a place you once visited together, and the emptiness of that space feels unbearable. They stumble upon your old photo, and their chest tightens with a longing they can never satisfy. Memories that once felt light now sting like venom, because every recollection carries the same brutal reminder. You were there, and now you're gone forever. These hauntings don't stop. They linger for years, surfacing at unexpected times, reminding them of what they threw away. Stage 7, permanent regret. Eventually, regret becomes permanent. It's not always loud, not always tearful, but it's always there in the quiet spaces between thoughts. They may build a new life. They may meet new people. They may even laugh again. But beneath it all, there will always be a shadow you. You will be the what if they carry until their last breath. What if they had valued you sooner? What if they had apologized in time? What if they had fought for you instead of taking you for granted? The cruelest truth of regret is this: it doesn't rewrite the past. It only poisons the present. Why their regret doesn't matter. And here's where the power shifts back to you. Their regret, no matter how deep, cannot touch you anymore. It belongs entirely to them. You've walked away, healed, and built a future where their memory has no power. Their sleepless nights are theirs to bear. Their haunting memories are their punishment, not your burden. Regret unfolds as their lifelong companion, but for you, it is liberation. You are free, stronger, wiser. They are trapped in the cycle of remembering. Regret doesn't come in a single moment. It unfolds in stages. from denial to permanent guilt. But no matter how much they regret, it cannot undo your decision to walk away. Their regret is their prison. Your healing is your freedom. Memories are supposed to be a source of comfort. They are fragments of joy, snapshots of moments we want to hold on to. But when someone has lost you forever, memories turn from comfort into torment. They stop being gentle reminders of what once was and start becoming sharp knives that cut every time they resurface. Because once you're gone, the only version of you that remains in their world is the one that lives in memory. And memories, unlike people, never change. They don't forgive. They don't fade easily. They don't respond. They only replay again and again until the weight becomes unbearable. The triggers they can't escape at first. They try to avoid reminders of you. They delete photos. They mute songs. They stay away from places you used to go together. But avoidance never works because memory doesn't need permission to appear. It sneaks in at the most unexpected times. A laugh that sounds like yours in a crowded room. A phrase someone else says that you used to repeat. A scent that drifts by, taking them back to a moment they didn't cherish enough. These small, ordinary triggers hit harder than they expect. They thought they had control over forgetting. But forgetting isn't something you choose. It's something that happens on its own. And when the loss is this deep, forgetting never comes. From light to heavy dot in the beginning, their memories of you may even feel sweet. They recall your smile, your kindness, your patience. They convince themselves it's good to remember the good times. But over time, sweetness turns bitter because every happy memory becomes a reminder of what they'll never experience again. The laughter now echoes like silence. The comfort you gave now highlights the emptiness of their present. The lightness fades. The heaviness grows. And suddenly, remembering isn't a choice anymore. It's a punishment, idealization, and absence. Here's where memory plays its cruelest trick. Absence makes them idealize you. When you were present, they saw your flaws. They dismissed your efforts. They got used to your patience. But now without you, their mind begins to exaggerate your goodness. They remember you as kinder, softer, more perfect than you really were. Not because you weren't extraordinary, but because guilt sharpens their vision. They see you now through the lens of loss. And that lens makes everything you did seem bigger, brighter, and more irreplaceable in their memory. You become untouchable, someone they will never find again. The weight of the unsaid. It's not just what they remember that haunts them. It's what they can't fix. The apologies they never gave, the gratitude they never expressed, the times they should have chosen you and didn't. These gaps in the story eat away at them because memory keeps replaying those unfinished moments. They remember the night you cried and they stayed silent, the time you needed support and they looked the other way, the promises they broke without even acknowledging. These moments replay like echoes in a chamber with no exit dot, and every time they remember, they're faced with the same unbearable truth. They can't go back and make it right. The ghost of your absence. One of the most haunting aspects of memory is not just recalling who you were, but recalling your absence. They remember the last time you walked away, the look in your eyes when you realized you couldn't stay any longer, the silence that followed when they tried to reach out and you didn't answer, This isn't just about remembering you. It's about remembering the moment they lost you. And that moment becomes a ghost that follows them everywhere. They might bury themselves in distractions, surround themselves with noise, even jump into new relationships. But ghosts don't leave. Your absence lingers in the quiet hours. In the middle of the night, when everything else fades away, the unreachable you. As time passes, they realize something even more devastating. The person they remember isn't just gone. They're unreachable. The version of you that laughed with them, forgave them, and gave them chance after chance no longer exists. You've grown. You've healed. You've moved forward. They might pick up the phone, tempted to call, but then they stop because deep down they know the truth. The memory they're chasing isn't someone who exists anymore. Even if they tried, they couldn't reach you. And that realization makes the memories even heavier. They're not just remembering the past. They're being tortured by the knowledge that the past is all they will ever have of you. When memories become punishment, memories don't fade evenly. They return sharper in the quietest moments when they least expect it. When they most want to escape a late-night drive, a sudden silence in a crowded place, the pause before sleep. That's when memory hits hardest. And unlike anger or grief, which can eventually burn out, memory endures. It lingers, reshaping itself into guilt, regret, and longing that has no outlet. This is why memories become punishment. Not because they're false, but because they're two true reminders of what was real, what was valuable, and what will never return. Why this matters to you, for you, this chapter is liberation. Because while they're haunted by memories, you're creating new ones, ones filled with people who value you. Moments that bring peace instead of pain, and a life that moves forward without the weight of the past. They will replay the old scenes. You will write new ones. They will cling to the ghost of who you were. You will step fully into who you are. Becoming, that's the difference. Their memories trap them. Your memories free you. Memories can be blessings or curses for those who took you for granted. Your absence transforms every memory into a haunting reminder of what they lost. But for you, memories become a foundation for growth. Proof that you can move forward without ever looking back. There's a truth that those who lose you never truly understand when you walk away. You don't just leave, you grow, and that growth places you in a place they can never follow. No matter how much they want to, no matter how much they regret. Because leaving is not just about absence. It's about transformation. You don't simply remove yourself from their life. You reclaim the energy, the time, the focus, and the strength you once poured into them, and you redirect it toward yourself. And once you've tasted that kind of growth, there is no going back. The shift they never saw coming when you were with them. They thought they knew you. They believed you would always be the same person, forgiving, patient, endlessly giving. They relied on that predictability. But walking away changes everything. You begin to evolve in ways they can't imagine. You learn boundaries. You discover the power of saying no without guilt. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened anyway. Slowly you start building a life where your peace is the priority, not an afterthought. This shift is invisible to them at first. They still think they can reach you with the same words, the same gestures, the same half-hearted apologies. But when they finally try, they're met with someone different, someone they no longer recognize. Reclaiming your power growth begins in silence, in the space where you no longer waste your energy on arguments, explanations, or waiting for them to change. In that silence, you reclaim your power. You pour it into yourself instead of into fixing someone else. You focus on your goals, your healing, your passions. You become stronger, calmer, and more confident. And here's the cruel irony for them. The more you grow, the smaller they become in comparison. The gap widens. The person you are becoming is not reachable by the person who once drained you. It's not punishment. It's evolution. Why they can't catch up? They might try to return. They might make promises, plead for another chance, or attempt to recreate the past. But the truth is they can't reach you anymore, because growth changes your standards. It teaches you not to settle for crumbs when you deserve the whole feast. It makes you see clearly the difference between love and control, between loyalty and self-betrayal. Even if they show up at your door with apologies, even if they finally say all the words you once longed to hear, it won't matter. You'll feel the difference. You'll know it's too late because you no longer crave what once hurt you. You no longer mistake chaos for love, the irreversible distance. This is what makes growth so devastating to those left behind. It creates a distance that can never be closed. They may stand right in front of you, but they'll feel the gap in your energy. They'll see it in your eyes, the way you no longer look at them with hope or expectation. They'll hear it in your voice, calm, composed, detached. They'll sense it in your presence, a boundary they can't cross, no matter how hard they try. This distance isn't about cruelty, it's about truth. Once you've outgrown someone, nor apology, nor nostalgia, no promise can shrink you back to the size you once were. There's silent realization. For them, this realization won't come in a dramatic confrontation. It will come quietly in the moments they least expect. They'll see you thriving without them. They'll hear about your successes, your joy, your new connections. They'll realize you've built a life that doesn't include them, a life that doesn't even leave space for them. And in that moment, the weight will hit them. They didn't just lose you. They lost access to the future version of you, stronger, happier, more complete, a version they will never get to know. That's when the regret deepens into something unbearable. Because losing who you were is painful enough, but losing the chance to ever meet who you are becoming, that's a grief they will never escape. For you, liberation, not loss. Here's the most important part. While they are haunted by memories, you are empowered by growth. Your story isn't about what they lost. It's about what you gained. You gained clarity. You gained strength. You gained the freedom to build a life on your own terms. You stopped begging for respect and started commanding it. You stopped waiting for love and started creating it within yourself. You stopped playing small just to fit into someone else's broken story. And in doing so, you became untouchable. Not because you are unreachable out of spite, but because you have risen to a level where their old ways, their old manipulations, their old excuses simply don't apply anymore. The final truth growth is the ultimate closure. It doesn't just end the chapter. It rewrites the book. They will always look back and see the version of you they lost. But you will never look back because your focus is forward. And the most devastating truth for them is also the most liberating truth for you. Once you've grown beyond reach, there is no return. They will never see you again, not the old you, not the new you, not ever. What they lost was permanent, and what you gained was freedom. True power isn't in proving someone wrong. It's in outgrowing them so completely that they can't even find the version of you they once knew. Their punishment is regret. Your reward is freedom. Regret is a strange companion. It doesn't appear when it could still make a difference. It arrives later slowly, heavily, and permanently. By the time it comes, the door is already closed, the bridge already burned, and the person they thought would always be there has vanished. For those who lost you, regret won't be a passing emotion. It will become a shadow that follows them into the quiet hours of the night, into the ordinary routines of their day, into the moments they least expect. A song, a plus, a scent, even a phrase someone else says, suddenly it pulls them back to you. But this time there is no return. The haunting nature of regret. At first, they may try to numb it with distractions, new relationships, busyness, noise, but nothing works because regret doesn't need permission to enter. It doesn't need an invitation. It slips through the cracks of their denial, whispering in the silence. You had something rare and you let it go. They will remember your patience when they face criticism elsewhere. They will remember your laughter when the room feels empty. They will remember your presence when the world feels cold. These memories will not comfort them. They will torment them. Because memories cannot hug, cannot forgive, cannot return the permanence of what's lost. The cruelest part of regret is that it sharpens with time. Instead of fading, it grows heavier. Because the longer you are gone, the more undeniable the truth becomes. You are not coming back. They cannot undo the choices that drove you away. They cannot rewind the moments when they should have fought for you, but chose pride instead. And so regret becomes not a moment, but a lifetime, a slow-burning ache that never leaves. It becomes the unspoken sentence they carry. You were given every chance and you wasted it. The invisible punishment. The irony is that you don't need to punish them. You don't need to speak a word, raise your voice, or seek revenge. Their regret is the punishment. Every success you achieve without them. Every smile they no longer get to see, every joy they are excluded from it, all cuts deeper than anything you could ever say. They will scroll through old photos, reread old conversations, and feel the sharp sting of absence. And in that sting lies the truth. Regret never dies. It doesn't fade with time. It matures. It hardens. It embeds itself into the core of their memory, the final wound for the rest of their life. They will carry the knowledge that they lost someone irreplaceable. They will live with the weight of knowing they had the chance to cherish you, and they chose not to. And that truth will follow them everywhere they go. Like a scar they can never erase, because regret is not an event. It is a sentence, and once it begins, it never truly ends. Walking away is not the end. It is the beginning. The true reward of closing the door is not the silence it leaves behind. It is the freedom it gives you to step fully into your own life. When you refuse to look back, you reclaim everything that was once drained, neglected, or dismissed. Liberation from the past for too long. Your worth may have been tied to someone else's approval. Your peace may have been interrupted by their chaos. Your energy may have been spent repairing what they kept breaking. But when you walk away for good, you cut the invisible strings that bound you to their dysfunction. You no longer wake up wondering what mood they'll be in, what drama they'll create, or what apology they will never say. You wake up free to live without second-guessing your own value. The power of choosing yourself, the act of never looking back, is not about cruelty. It is not about revenge. It is about choosing yourself fully and unapologetically. It is declaring my future matters more than your excuses. My peace matters more than your chaos. My growth matters more than your comfort. And once you make that decision, you find that doors open new opportunities, new friendships, new love built not on desperation, but on mutual respect and genuine care. The peace of moving forward freedom is not loud. It is quiet. It is found in the small moments. Laughing without fear, sleeping without anxiety, walking into a new chapter without the weight of the old one on your shoulders. It is the deep breath you take when you realize you no longer carry the burden of someone else's mistakes. It is the calm that replaces the storm, the evolution of self. Never looking back allows you to evolve into the person you were always meant to be, stronger, wiser, more focused. You begin to pour your energy into growth instead of survival. You start building instead of repairing. You live not in reaction to someone else, but in alignment with your own vision. And the most powerful truth is this: once you taste this freedom, you will never settle for anything less again. The ultimate closure for them. Your absence will be a wound that never heals. For you, it will be the path to a new life. Their regret will be permanent, but your liberation will be permanent too. You will not look back because you know that what's ahead is far greater than what you left behind. And in that choice, in that quiet, unshakable refusal to return, you will find the ultimate form of power. The freedom to never be held hostage by the past again. And that is the quiet, unshakable truth. Once you walk away, they will never see you again. Not the version of you that ed endlessly, not the soul that endured endlessly. That person is gone, and what remains is someone stronger, freer. Let them live with the ghost of your absence. Let them carry the weight of regret, because you have already moved on. You are building, you are rising, and you are stepping into a life where your worth is recognized before it becomes a memory. There, punishment will be regret. Your victory will be freedom. If this message spoke to your soul, don't just let it fade. Subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell, because every video here is another weapon to protect your peace. Reclaim your power and step into the life you truly deserve. And if you know someone who needs this truth, someone trapped in a cycle of being undervalued, share this video with them. This could be the turning point they've been waiting for. Remember this: you don't owe anyone your return. The door is closed. The future is yours, and they will never see you again. Now let me leave you with this. Once you walk away, they will never see you again, not the old you, not the forgiving you, not the version that once endured beyond reason. That person is gone. What remains is someone stronger, freer, untouchable. So I ask you, what's the one boundary you need to set today to protect your peace? Share it in the comments. It might be the reminder someone else desperately needs. And if this message resonated with you, explore the playlist waiting for you. Each video is crafted to sharpen your mind, calm your spirit, and remind you that your worth is not negotiable. Subscribe and continue walking the path of strength, because every step forward is proof they will never see you again. Think of how modern workplaces often praise endless availability, yet rarely reward true boundaries. It is in setting those boundaries that dignity is preserved. Consider how social media amplifies the illusion that everyone else is doing better. The Stoic reminder cuts through. Comparison is a thief of peace, and presence is a deeper wealth. Midlife teaches us that relationships which cannot withstand honesty are not sustainable. Every conversation unspoken becomes a mirror reminding us what we accepted too long. There is power in silence. In a society that equates constant response with care, your refusal to reply is not weakness. It is strength, discipline, and clarity. Negativity feeds on repetition. By breaking the cycle, by pausing before reaction, you reclaim authorship of your story instead of recycling old pain. Even in success, people forget this truth. Your value is not determined by recognition. It is measured by the steadiness you maintain when applause fades. Absence reveals more than presence ever could. When you step away, people finally confront the reality of what they lost. Every ending, no matter how painful, is also a beginning. The Stoics knew this, and they remind us that walking away is sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself. Think of how modern workplaces often praise endless availability, yet rarely reward true boundaries. It is in setting those boundaries that dignity is preserved. Consider how social media amplifies the illusion that everyone else is doing better. The Stoic reminder cuts through. Comparison is a thief of peace, and presence is a deeper wealth. Midlife teaches us that relationships which cannot withstand honesty are not sustainable. Every conversation unspoken becomes a mirror reminding us what we accepted too long. There is power in silence. In a society that equates constant response with care, your refusal to reply is not weakness. It is strength, discipline, and clarity. Negativity feeds on repetition. By breaking the cycle, by pausing before reaction, you reclaim authorship of your story instead of recycling old pain. Even in success, people forget this truth. Your value is not determined by recognition. It is measured by the steadiness you maintain when applause fades. Absence reveals more than presence ever could. When you step away, people finally confront the reality of what they lost. Every ending, no matter how painful, is also a beginning. The Stoics knew this, and they remind us that walking away is sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself. Think of how modern workplaces often praise endless availability, yet rarely reward true boundaries. It is in setting those boundaries that dignity is preserved. Consider how social media amplifies the illusion that everyone else is doing better. The Stoic reminder cuts through. Comparison is a thief of peace, and presence is a deeper wealth. Midlife teaches us that relationships which cannot withstand honesty are not sustainable. Every conversation unspoken becomes a mirror reminding us what we accepted too long. There is power in silence. In a society that equates constant response with care, Your refusal to reply is not weakness. It is strength, discipline, and clarity. Negativity feeds on repetition. By breaking the cycle, by pausing before reaction, you reclaim authorship of your story instead of recycling old pain. Even in success, people forget this truth. Your value is not determined by recognition. It is measured by the steadiness you maintain when applause fades. Absence reveals more than presence ever could. When you step away, people finally confront the reality of what they lost. Every ending, no matter how painful, is also a beginning. The Stoics knew this, and they remind us that walking away is sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself. Think of how modern workplaces often praise endless availability, yet rarely reward true boundaries. It is in setting those boundaries that dignity is preserved. Consider how social media amplifies the illusion that everyone else is doing better. The Stoic reminder cuts through. Comparison is a thief of peace, and presence is a deeper wealth. Midlife teaches us that relationships which cannot withstand honesty are not sustainable. Every conversation unspoken becomes a mirror, reminding us what we accepted too long. There is power in silence. In a society that equates constant response with care, your refusal to reply is not weakness. It is strength, discipline, and clarity. Negativity feeds on repetition. By breaking the cycle, by pausing before reaction, you reclaim authorship of your story instead of recycling old pain. Even in success, people forget this truth. Your value is not determined by recognition. It is measured by the steadiness you maintain when applause fades. Absence reveals more than presence ever could. When you step away, people finally confront the reality of what they lost. Every ending, no matter how painful, is also a beginning. The Stoics knew this, and they remind us that walking away is sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself. Think of how modern workplaces often praise endless availability, yet rarely reward true boundaries. It is in setting those boundaries that dignity is preserved. Consider how social media amplifies the illusion that everyone else is doing better. The Stoic reminder cuts through. Comparison is a thief of peace, and presence is a deeper wealth. Midlife teaches us that relationships which cannot withstand honesty are not sustainable. Every conversation unspoken becomes a mirror reminding us what we accepted too long. There is power in silence. In a society that equates constant response with care, your refusal to reply is not weakness. It is strength, discipline, and clarity. Negativity feeds on repetition. By breaking the cycle, by pausing before reaction, you reclaim authorship of your story instead of recycling old pain. Even in success, people forget this truth. Your value is not determined by recognition. It is measured by the steadiness you maintain when applause fades. Absence reveals more than presence ever could. When you step away, people finally confront the reality of what they lost. Every ending, no matter how painful, is also a beginning. The Stoics knew this, and they remind us that walking away is sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself.